Growing up in Egypt meant Samir Habib had to bear the burden of hiding who he really is.
For a long time, I did suffer from depression, and at very one point, I remember I was contemplating suicide.
He came to Canada 5 years ago, and with his passport expiring, he'll have to return to Egypt and complete 3 years of mandatory military service, a move that could mean his life. He says Egypt is not safe for gay men like him.
The majority of LGBT community are being targeted right now in Egypt. The level of persecution there could be anything from being beaten up in the middle of the street to, and then they could imprison them.
Around the world, 73 countries still criminalize same-sex activity, and in 13, it's punishable by death. Habib has applied for asylum in Canada. His refugee determination hearing this Friday will decide if he gets to stay.
My entire life is at stake.
But his timing fortunate. The Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada has officially released guidelines to better understand and evaluate claims like Habib's. It guides board members on using appropriate language, the challenges faced by people with diverse sexual and gender identities, how to assess credibility and avoid stereotypes.
It brings more human rights into a refugee hearing context that were missing before.
Immigration lawyer Bashir Khan says 30% of his cases this year involve LGBT asylum seekers. Before the guidelines, Khan says adjudicators often put the focus on making people prove their sexuality or gender identity instead of the persecution they face.
Often in refugee hearings, what board members do is ask the person, so tell me, how do you make love? When these kind of graphic questions are asked, what you're really doing is you're trivializing and putting their sexuality on trial.
Khan says the guidelines bring a deeper understanding of how to approach these cases. Habib says that gives him hope.
It means that it's going to be a little bit more fair.
Advocates and legal experts call the guidelines a step in the right direction, but they are just guidelines. What remains to be seen is how adjudicators employ and interpret them. Jill Kubra, CBC News, Winnipeg.